Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final knowledge agenda at hand. I would now like to start by inviting our session's chairperson, followed by our other panelists. The subject of this roundtable discussion is sustaining silver demand during elevated prices. The session's chair, Mr. Amar Singh of StoneX Group, looking after Asia Pacific and Middle East. Please put your hands up for Mr. Amar Singh as he joins us up here. Our other valuable contributors to this panel will be of Amrapali, Gujarat, Mr. Chirag Thakkar. From GJC, Mr. Rajesh Rokde. The National President of IBJA, Mr. Surendra Mehta. From ICBC Standard Bank, Mr. Ian Harris. From Hindustan Zinc Limited, Mr. Vijay Murthy. From HDFC Bank, Mr. Neville Patel. From Hindustan Platinum, Mr. Gautam Choksi. And joining us online is Mr. Shivanshu Mehta from MCX. So as these gentlemen take their seats, everyone, let me give you a brief profile of the guests that have not been introduced thus far. As you can see from the cross-section of the panelists that have been invited to be a part of this roundtable discussion, we are trying to take a perspective of every stakeholder in the industry, right from manufacturing to financial institutions and of course to people who basically facilitate the logistics part of it as well. Mr. Amar Singh, our session's chairperson, leads the metals division for Asia Pacific and the Middle East at StoneX Group, which is a Fortune 100 financial services organization. With over 22 decades of experience in commodities and financial markets, Mr. Amar Singh has been pivotal in expanding StoneX's bullion business across the UAE, India, and Southeast Asia. Mr. Chirag Thakkar has already been introduced to you during the inaugural part. So has been Mr. Rajesh Rokde, and so has been Mr. Surendra Mehta. Mr. Ian Harris is the head of Physical Precious Metals ICBC Standard Bank, London. And he serves as the head of Physical Precious Metals, which is a prominent joint venture between ICBC and Standard Bank, focused on global commodities and financial markets. With extensive experience in physical trading, structuring, and supply chain management, Mr. Ian Harris plays a critical role in driving the bank's precious metal strategy across key global markets, including Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. A very respected voice in the bullion industry, he frequently contributes at major international forums, offering insightful perspectives. The CEO of Minor Metals IBU and Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Hindustan Zinc Limited, Mr. Vijay Murthy, is on the stage. Mr. Vijay Murthy is, as you're all aware, Hindustan Zinc is India's leading producer of zinc, lead, and silver. And with over 18 years of experience across finance, marketing, strategic sourcing, and business transformation, Mr. Vijay Murthy has been instrumental in positioning Hindustan Zinc as global leader in silver and minor metals. His core focuses are sustainability, innovation, and value-added growth. Next up, we have the head bullion desk, Treasury, HDFC Bank, the Senior Vice President, Mr. Neville Patel. Mr. Neville Patel, as you're all aware, HDFC Bank is one of India's leading private sector banks, and with over 2 decades of experience in banking and precious metals industry, Mr. Neville Patel has played a pivotal role in developing bullion-backed financial products, refining import processes, and strengthening institutional bullion operations. Mr. Gautam Choksi is up here on the stage with us, the Executive Director of Hindustan Platinum. Mr. Choksi, Hindustan Platinum is a leading name in precious metals refining and engineering. Under Mr. Choksi's leadership, the company has built strong capabilities across healthcare, environmental technology, and advanced material science. He's also a founding force behind eBullion, a digital platform aimed at modernizing precious metal investment, and his forward-thinking approach combines legacy values with cutting-edge innovation, making him a driving force in India's platinum group metals segment. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta is joining us online. Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, again, is somebody who needs no introduction as the head bullion for MCX. He's the director for IIBX and IIBH IFSC Limited. And let me tell you, with over 21 years of experience in physical and financial bullion markets, Mr. Mehta has been instrumental in shaping India's policy and infrastructure for bullion trade. His work at IIBX, which is the country's first international bullion exchange at Gift City, marks a significant milestone in India's evolution as a global bullion hub. Mr. Mehta could not join us this year physically due to some pressing commitments, but mostly he's always a part of our silver and gold events, and we've always had a chance to hear him right here on the stage. A big welcome to you, Mr. Mehta. And now I leave this session in the hands of our sessions moderator, Mr. Amar Singh, and he rides it forward.
First of all, very, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think first of all, I'll congratulate again Eventel for putting all of us together to go through some of what is going through the silver industry in the particular to India, but of course also getting some of the color around the global world. I think last time when we met Goa, I think except weather, everything was fantastic. And I think many of us made a lot of views after hearing some of the panelists, and particularly everybody was quite constructive. Maybe we have not achieved the level which we all were forecasting. Welcome, Neville, sir. So I remember, I think, please correct me if somebody had made note, but silver then in April last year at the similar time was 21, 22. I think we have most of us here, people were definitely, one thing came out clearly, that market is heading only one way, which is up. I think highest people thought 40, somebody said 50. We achieved to 34. So if we look at, let's say, 21 to 34, people may only talk about gold because gold moved, of course, 2200 all the way to 35. You have to catch up the number because every day is a new number these days. But clearly, similar way silver has moved. Maybe not people are not feeling or it doesn't move in the same fashion as gold. But silver, which went through a lot of tough time, and I'm sure some of you who have traded silver when it went through photography and some smartphone came, and the supply went like demand destruction in silver when silver traded $4 to $5 an ounce. But now I think I would say the industrial demand particularly is the driving force for the silver. And as rightly said, of course, the energy transition is the primary driver of silver, I would say, from the demand perspective. Then, of course, you have electronic, whether 5G, whether semiconductor. And then you have the last but not the least, of course, part of, I will say, cleaner and greener environment is electric vehicle or hybrid and so on. So energy, industrial use, which possibly I would have never envisaged in 2010-11 that this is going to change the silver consumption. People were extremely pessimistic when silver was around $4.5 an ounce. So without going too much time, I think clearly silver is an asset class which looks very promising. And Chirag set the note, nothing better than anyone comprising all the fundamental, which I think again, all of us after this and maybe end of the conference will one thing clearly come out, that silver is lagging. Silver is lagging, the uncertainty in financial world, geopolitics, structural change in the trade flows, which is some countries paying 50%, some 20% before you put your plans, the tax structure changes. This means people like you and me will be on the toe in the near future, at least till Trump 2.0 administration in place. So we have, I think, a fantastic panel. Vatsa, again, whoever has thought through this panel, I think it's phenomenal panel. You have the largest, I think one of the largest producers, Hindustan Zinc, where Mr. Murthy himself present here, who is part of the sales. Then we have refinery and also some of the industrial application, Mr. Choksi himself. Chirag Thakkar doesn't need intro. He is one of the largest silver and bullion trader. And then we have, I heard first time Mr. Rokde, and he is going to represent to all of us about the silver demand from the consumer perspective. Then Mr. Mehta possibly give us some perspective around how to make possibly life easy for all of us, from the easing the business, what actually government is trying to do, or what industry, as an industry body, he's making an effort. I'm sure we all making an effort, but it gets heard when it goes from one industry body. Ian Harris, I'm sure we all had a fantastic 6 months before you realize what's happening in local London and lease structure. I think you all definitely are aware about lease. I don't think to talk today. And then Neville, who has been the front intermediating between the rest of the world and the Indian market. So without wasting much of time, I think I would like to start this from the Ian Harris, if you allow me. Ian, maybe a little bit perspective from your side about local London structural change as well as a supplier, because you are the one of the supplier. And if you put some open, like maybe openly, what you think the recent 6-month market structure change and how likely it will impact possibly the supply chain from the India perspective.
Sure, yeah. So I guess the last few months, as you say, has been quite unprecedented in terms of silver, or certainly not for the last few years. I think since COVID that we've seen such dislocations in the market as we have, as we saw in the lead up to the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So from, I think you're probably all aware that there was a large dislocation in the price between the CME and local London, which was driven primarily by fears, concerns that I think with the upcoming US election, Mr. Trump had said that he was considering tariffs, global tariffs, which at that time was fairly uncertain what that would entail. But I think, although I think initially the market was not necessarily thinking that gold and silver would be covered by these tariffs, I think the broad nature of the comments put some concern into the minds of people that if either directly or indirectly these tariffs could affect the supply of gold and silver into the US.
Maybe Ian, can you put, yeah.
Sorry. Supply of gold and silver into the US, that perhaps deliveries on COMEX may be difficult, or there could be some frustration around that, which created the price dislocation, which is similar to the price dislocation we saw during COVID, but for different reasons. And we saw a large movement of metal, both gold and silver, from other areas as well, but primarily from London into New York. Now, it's not straightforward. I mean, part of the reason there is a dislocation is because you can't just, they're not interchangeable. The metal in London, you have for gold is large bars, for silver is also large bars, but for in New York, for gold it's kilobars or 100-ounce bars, and silver it is large bars, but the size range is different, and also there are some, even at the time, there were some tariffs on certain countries for importing metal into the US, which made, which as I say, caused some frustration with moving the metal between the two locations. How that impacted, I guess, the local London side was with a large flow of material coming out of London. It put pressure on the infrastructure for a lot of the clearers there, because the clearing market is set up for the day-to-day local London trading and transfers, which take place between the London clearers. But there's not a huge amount of intraday physical metal movement. The metal is allocated between the clearers. It's booked as electronic transfers. There are some physical movements, but the vaults themselves don't have huge day-to-day movements in and out. Whereas if we see times of demand like we did for COMEX, and as we sometimes do when the demand is high in India, the vaults aren't necessarily geared up to move material on quite a high level as the market demands, and that can cause delays, and that puts pressure on the short-term financing, which is what we saw as an impact on the gold and silver swap rates, which impacted the lease rates. And so subsequently, the knock-on effect was also the costs of funding became very high for gold and silver. I mean, that situation seems to have settled down drastically now. I think since we've had more clarity on the tariffs, once the tariffs or the reciprocal tariffs were announced by the US on the 2nd of April, there was some initial fear I think on the first day, as there was just no clarity as to what was going to be covered, but very soon we saw in the small print that gold and silver bullion would be exempt from the tariffs, and I think that not exactly fully unwound, but it took a lot of the pressure off of that situation. And so we may even start to see some of that material moving back towards London.
So I'll come back to you, Ian, but I think thank you so much for walking through us. I hope this will answer, all of you have a lot of questions, and we'll come back hopefully 5-10 minutes in the end. Maybe Neville, next to you. So I think because the connectivity from the importation perspective is the supplier, which is largely bank and also some institution like ourselves. But Neville, maybe you want to take us through how you are dealing. One, of course, this local London cost of financing, changing market structure. And then two, of course, how it is really, and then volatility, where before you put the metal on the plane, the demand disappears. So how has been the experience, particularly for the last 6 months or maybe 1 year?
So yeah, I think like what Ian mentioned, we also could not really, escape the fallout of that. So we saw obviously, a lot of pressure on us and our clients, because silver market in India is extremely price sensitive, right? So there are price points at which you see demand. And if the price kind of goes higher than that, the demand just dries up. So typically a trader would call for metal through us, and by the time it reaches and it gets cleared, and the demand has just vanished, right? And then you have higher lease kind of coming on to the client. Yeah, but I think having said that, I think there was a certain amount, what we also saw that there was probably when it came to silver, there was probably little more prudence from customers, that they did not kind of indent huge amounts of silver into the country. So there were the clip size got smaller, and even the suppliers kind of shortened the duration. So we saw kind of market adjusting to that, but the kind of volume that we used to see, right, the huge volumes that we used to see silver, that has kind of come off. So I think market is adjusting to it. And what you're seeing is also that now there is a phenomena where silver is coming out of UAE now. So you're seeing smaller clip sizes, lower prices coming out of UAE. So there is some demand for that kind of silver also. So all in all, I think we've kind of moved away from a very comfortable way of doing business. Now it's probably become more focused on inventory managing. And I think there are ways that market can kind of work around this. And I think through the course of this panel, we'll probably come on that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Neville. I think you clearly summarized the changes which we all go through. Maybe the next, Chirag bhai, I think you are the third connecting point before it reaches to the manufacturer or jeweler, before it goes to the end. So maybe Chirag, how has been the last 12 months, particularly post-Trump 2.0?
So I would rather tell you the thing which these two guys does, but ultimately I am the pressure comes here only.
I know that.
Okay. Let me be very frank. Okay. Because the kind of a transition what we have seen from 2020 during the COVID time. So during the COVID time, the metal was stuck here, nothing's happening. And you know, that actually taught the whole value chain a lot of other things which we never expected. At the same time, when this last 2 quarters, what we have seen was that I couldn't tell my supplier, please do this. I couldn't tell my banker, please do this. And I also couldn't tell my client, please do this, all right? So ultimately, I think the kind of experience we had in last 2 quarters, it is more of a transition phase. And now if this kind of things appear, we know how to deal with it, because now we know the way, what is the way to do it. At times, internally we think rather consignment is a blessing, or you know, it is a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah.
Because you are in a situation that you're actually helpless, right? So I remember in once this all metal which was lying for last more than a quarter got settled, and there were like more couple of shipments which we were trying to order. So we requested banks very clearly that we need a very clear way that what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, but our transaction could not rely on a global scenario, right? Something's happening at other corner of the world, and we are a very small part of it. It is not as huge part of it, but at the same time, the same thing as the flow goes on, it cannot be treated as the same way, right?
No.
So the kind of a feedback we have given to the banks, to the institution like yourself as well, that it has to draw a line wherein things doesn't flow in such a heavy way that it is swept out.
I agree with you, and I think we'll go there quickly, but maybe the next one, I think, I know Vijay Murthy sir, you are the most happy person because you are producer here. But Mr. Choksi, I know refining for gold has evolved substantially. Silver, you are the one from not just before the tax regime changes, but you have played a very critical role, one of few LBMA registered refinery. How has been your experience, especially the 12-month when lease went through the roof? How is there any different way of managing things, cost of working capital as price move higher, like 50%?
So when lease rates go up, of course, our costs are going to go up because you're not going to earn that much in forwards and you're losing. So certainly, high lease rates are not preferred for any business, but it just becomes difficult to manage, and there's so much uncertainty with the tenor, right? So short-term lease rates are always high, and you're always in a dilemma how long it may last.
Will last. Yeah.
So, but overall, I think there's been a great thrust on recycling, recycling precious metals and silver in particular. But globally, as Chirag mentioned, there's been a deficit of few thousand tons, 4,500 tons for the past couple of years. And going forward also there seems to be a deficit, right? So I think the only way sustainably to solve this is industry to recycle more efficiently, right? So secondary refining, of course we have mining, but secondary refining would really help, not only in India but on a global scale, right?
Thank you, thank you. I think next I'll go to, I'll come Mehta ji in a minute to you, but from the consumer perspective, I know the prices may look higher, but you also said earlier today that this is not high. Gold is making new high every day. We have seen 3,500, but silver has seen $48, which is still quite far. So how the consumer behavior is looking at these elevated price, like I believe 100,000 was touched very recently or close to 100,000. How do you see from the consumer, from the retailer side? Yes, Mr. Rokde.
Exactly, that $48 is a record, और मुझे लगता है कि जिस तरीके का $48 का रिकॉर्ड छूने में बहुत टाइम लगने वाला था, लेकिन शायद जिस गति से गोल्ड ने, जिस स्पीड से गोल्ड ने हिट किया अपने सभी रिकॉर्ड को। मुझे लगता है आने वाले दिनों में सिल्वर को बहुत ज़्यादा स्कोप है। और जैसे कि प्राइस कंज्यूमर फैक्टर से मैं देखता हूँ प्राइस को, तो ऑलवेज मैं ये कहता हूँ कि इसकी कीमत बढ़ती है तो ही उसके तरफ अट्रैक्शन बढ़ता है। अगर वो वैल्यूबल नहीं रहेगी तो उसके तरफ कोई देखेगा नहीं। और मुझे लगता है कंज्यूमर को अवेयरनेस के साथ साथ मार्केटिंग की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है। हमारी जो इंडस्ट्री है उसमें मार्केटिंग बहुत ज़्यादा लैक करती है, स्पेशली सिल्वर के लिए। आपको याद होगा कि अक्षय तृतीया जो अभी 30 तारीख को है, 30 को है, पहले केवल साउथ इंडियन एरिया में ही उसको माना जाता था, उसे बहुत ज़्यादा प्रमोट किया जाता था। बट आप देखिए धनतेरस जैसा अभी अक्षय तृतीया पूरे इंडिया में मनाया जाता है, वो नॉर्थ में नहीं मनाया जाता है, नॉर्थ में भी मनाना शुरू हो गया। तो हम जैसे ही इसका मार्केटिंग स्टार्ट कर देंगे, और मार्केटिंग केवल एक से नहीं होगा, ये पैन इंडिया यू हैव टू मार्केट ऑल ओवर, कि नाउ दिस रेट इज, हम लोग भी कई बार टीवी पे बोलते हैं कि ये रेट देखा जाए तो अगर मैं रेशो देखता हूँ तो जितना सिल्वर ने बढ़ना चाहिए नहीं बढ़ा है, तो अभी सिल्वर की बारी है। तो ये मैसेज जब जाएगा तो ही कंज्यूमर भी इसके तरफ अट्रैक्ट होगा। और मुझे लगता है कि बहुत यूज़ हमारे पास अपॉर्चुनिटी है। जैसे मैंने जब थोड़ी देर पहले कहा था कि ये इंडस्ट्री को केवल एक कमोडिटी की तरह ना देखा जाए, कस्टमर को भी समझना पड़ेगा। हम लोग आज भी इतना हर चीज़ का डिस्क्रिप्शन दे के बेचते हैं। हम लोग को पता है कि कस्टमर को आदत बना दी है हम लोग ने कि इसे रेट बताइए, वेट बताइए, मेकिंग बताइए, टैक्स बताइए, देन वो डिस्क्रिप्शन बताइए। क्यों नहीं हम MRP पे आ रहे? एटलीस्ट सिल्वर पे तो स्टार्ट कर दे। कस्टमर इज रेडी टू पे, बट वी आर गिविंग मोर ट्रांसपेरेंसी, वी आर गिविंग मोर मतलब एक्स्ट्रा सर्विसेज, दैट्स वाई दे आर कंफ्यूज, दे आर गेटिंग कंपेरिजन। तो एज अ कंज्यूमर, एज अ रिटेल मार्केट में अगर हम लोग सिल्वर को एक गिफ्टिंग के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा प्रमोट करें, या फिर जिस तरीके से अभी हमारे भारतीय संस्कृति में इतने ज़्यादा त्यौहार है, क्यों नहीं एक आदत डाल दी जाए कि नहीं, घर में अगर कोई मेहमान आता है, घर में कोई नया बच्चा आता है, तो केवल चांदी की चम्मच से क्यों, चांदी की थाली भी उसी समय उनके पास पहुंच जानी चाहिए। तो ये जब हम एक साथ बात करेंगे पूरे इंडस्ट्री में, अभी मैं देखता हूं कि गोल्ड की ऐड सबसे ज़्यादा होती है, लेकिन वो सिल्वर को प्रमोट नहीं करते।
No, I agree with you, and आपको एक चीज़ और बता दूं कि Singapore also is celebrate Akshaya Tritiya as much as India and particularly South. So it's growing. So I heard you. I think it's more marketing, possibly an institution, as you said earlier, like WGC, promoting this and making more aware about this, so that jewelry and utensils and other wear. Mehta ji, I'm coming to you. As you hear, I think Chirag really pointed very valuable point. When market, which has worked all its last many decades, where things were priced on London, London has enough liquidity, consignment for free forever, which I think has changed and changing significantly. But this move, where lease rate went through the roof, I think this is what he's saying. The pain is not him. Actually, pain, of course, intermediary, but consumer. But infrastructure, ease of import, export, all these, unless will develop, some of his question will never be addressed. So like why he has to go local London if he can buy and sell silver in the dollar? Dollar has an interest rate move. So that need a lot of things. When gold in lease rate touched 11% in the month of January, a lot of business moved away from local London because there is no local London ounces. So people said, okay, I'll buy dollar, sell dollar. This is how things started. So this is how I think we need to create an ecosystem where some of these things can be addressed at the ground level. Otherwise, if you doing your business basis local London, and local London is facing challenges which clearly comes out from Ian, whether it's a geopolitics or US. So what exactly industry is putting together, if you can walk us through in few minutes?
Very nice question, Amar. See, first of all, we need to understand that like the World Gold Council, there is nothing in the world, though we have formed World Silver Council, but we are not getting any response. So there is no single organization in the entire world which is working for the growth and development of the silver trade. including the problems faced in the silver trade, like what Chirag said, what Ian said, what Neville said. World Gold Council not only promote gold, but they also ensure that these problems are resolved. They get a lot of money from the miners. Even if, like we have formed World Silver Council, but who is going to give us money? We need a lot of money to promote silver, to resolve all the issues related to silver. Till today, let me tell you, it has been almost 3 years we have formed World Silver Council. We are not having even 60 members. There are no miners coming for membership. There are no big traders coming for membership. So this industry, and I tell you, like in recent years, the gold prices have gone so much higher. Now, some of the very big industrialists are also saying copper is the next gold. But who is saying silver is the next gold? There is no organization who is able to say. Why they are not able to say? Like diamond industry has said, हीरा है सदा के लिए. Gold industry has said, सोना है सुरक्षा के लिए. Silver किसके लिए? किसी को पता नहीं. Silver का कोई रोल ही नहीं है. Except कि आपको silver बेचना है, marketing करना है. You just need to market silver. We, in our country, let me tell you, since this is a common forum, I got a call 3 days back from Agra, which is a major manufacturing hub in India. And people in Agra are saying, now some of the silver jewelry are made only with 20% purity. If you are supplying silver to your customer with only 20, 30 or 40% purity, probably this market will collapse like the diamond market, because people will start losing trust on you. We are supplying almost, we are consuming almost say 5,000 tons of silver. Say, let's say half is used for industry, but balance half is purchased by the consumer. It is, they are keeping it in their house and they are feeling it as a store value, but there is no value. Where is the value for silver? So we all need to understand, we all need to come together, we need to form some organization, we need to fund that organization, then only all this problem can be resolved. Till today, I don't find anyone interested, not a single, even the top miners, top consulting firms, top associations, top jewelers, top industrialists who are using silver, they never come on the common platform and have tried to ensure that silver becomes a store value. I was just talking to Chirag कि अगर इंडिया में सब चीजें सिल्वर की प्योरिटी 100% हो जाए तो सिल्वर का इंपोर्ट ऐसे ही 1000 टन बढ़ जाएगा. So this is how we must understand. हमें कंज्यूमर को प्रॉपर माल देना है, सही माल देना है, जैसे हम गोल्ड में दे रहे हैं हमें प्रॉपर करना है. और शायद इसके लिए बहुत सारे we need to develop a lot of self-regulatory mechanism, then only we'll be able to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Maybe Vijay, I know one person who has, of course, not been very affected except the price going up, you enjoying. How you see from the demand perspective, do you think it's still very much driven by jewelry industry, or do you think industrial application users are also reaching out to you directly? Or anything else you think in last 12 months you want to comment?
Thank you, Amar. And I think agreeing on a lot of points with the rest of the panel, I think as a producer, yes, we are lucky to be having a domestic source. We happen to be the only domestic producer from a mining source. So whilst we have other colleagues from the industry who do from the recycling like Choksi and others, which is fantastic, which adds to the entire supply chain. So demand perspective, if we see, I think our firm belief has been that silver's days under the sun are yet to come. So just like the way gold has been a store of value, I tend to allude a lot with what Mehtaji said just now, that the entire industry, needs to really sort of get its act together with respect to driving that customer confidence and trust to make it a store of value. So then it's going to be further more better years for silver. But from a demand consumption point of view, in India, what we've been seeing is overall, apart from the investment demand, the jewelry demand has been pretty robust. Our market understanding says that the love for fashion jewelry is improving. Definitely a lot of marketing needs to be done. That's something maybe that as a company, we ourselves also need to think more, not just as a commodity player. How do we do more branded stuff? How do we more sell silver as a product and not just as a commodity in 30 kilo bars? I think that's something for us for food for thought as well. From a consumption perspective, if you look at it, Amar, in India, the way the circular economy has taken on with respect to all the metals plus the entire energy transition, we are seeing India is now almost set up 28,000 EV charging stations. This revolution is here to stay. The amount of improved consumption on all of these silver plus some more minor metals is going to be significant in the years to come. So with nearly 300 gigawatts of target in solar panels, hence electrical contacts, the entire electrical network which needs to be stepped up in India, it's going to be good. We are seeing some extremely good work from the government on this front as well. Yes, but it has to reflect into consumption. Not all panels are made in India yet. So still people like Vari and others are starting to make up solar panels in India. It's just been about modules and just assembly work here. So the real manufacturing prowess in India needs to pick up. But however, the love for gold and silver in India remains unabated. Thanks to our mothers, sisters, wives, everyone. As Mr. Kotak also recently said, they have been some of the most smartest investors globally. So that love for investment demand, we can continuously look to see to remain strong. But key actionables, agreeing with what Mehtaji said, I think this entire concept around store of value and the entire push around branded jewelry, I think that's something we got to get our act together within the industry in India as well.
Thank you, and congratulations for a fantastic result, and also some of the large expansion which could make self-sufficient for a significant part of our demand. We have Shivanshu, can you hear us?
Yes, Amar, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sure you also must be very happy with the extreme volatility and of course the price moving up. Quickly, how has been the MCX experience in the last, and of course a lot of challenges, opening with gaps, how you have been dealing with all this?
Well, I think we are pretty much here to serve the industry, whether it is gold or silver. And as regards our prices, they actually include the international prices as well as the currency, and more importantly, the custom duty tariff. And our experience has been like this, that silver being a very precious, volatile and industrial metal as such, it is prone to disparities in prices, discounts, premium, and demand also sometimes behaves very differently than expected. And the exchange brings a spot to futures integration because our contracts are of compulsory delivery nature. And we have seen so many times in the past, 2020, in the month of September during those COVID times, and every time you see that India goes into a disparity, people are able to actually, lock in the prices at the exchange and actually convert and give bars of exchange quality for delivery. That integrates and it shows the acceptance of price. But having said that, the volatility which silver has witnessed for the past few years now, it has also led to people more and more realizing that futures and options are really the instruments where you transfer risk from speculators, traders to, or let me say the other way, from hedgers, industry value chain participants onto speculators and traders. And it has reflected largely in the volumes of futures as well as options, the way they have gone up. Especially options seems to have come of age in gold as well as silver. And where we see that the open interest contribution is highest in terms of value chain participants. That is silver I'm talking about. And we have seen a 160% rise in option turnover and about 20-25% rise in futures turnover this year, this financial year over the previous. As regards the other role which an exchange typically plays, and I think what a lot of the co-panelists have said, developing this as an asset class, just like gold, So therein, our experience has been that since we launched the silver 1 kg bar a few years back in terms of it becoming a deliverable, 1 kg product, it has picked up tremendous salience and retail demand. And it has become evident in terms of the vibrancy of those contracts and the delivery numbers. It has become a retail favorite, and we have seen some 460 tons of silver 1 kg bars changing hands in the past few years. So definitely the exchange tries to play a role in developing this as an asset class and also being an instrument or a platform for risk management for the industry, especially in a commodity like silver, which is prone to extreme rounds of volatility. And like I said, a three-way hedge is what is needed. And sometimes you have situations in which the custom duty changes in one stroke. And we have seen those instances in the past where the exchange usage has come to help and to protect the margins of the industry. So I think this is how I would like to iterate the past few years gone by, Amar.
Thank you so much. I know time is ticking quite fast. Maybe I'll come to all of you. I think I'll just ask one thing related to your specific business. How do you see this higher prices, which looks to me actually quite economical right now by hearing all of your views? Clearly this looks like undervalued against most of the asset. If you look at even silver ratio, which is, we haven't seen that number holding that long, so long. So I think the elevated price, rather I'll go here and ask each one of you. We have, let's say, 2 minutes. What do you think, one or two things relevant for you? So maybe Shivanshu, since we have, I don't know how long I can have you. What are 1, 2 things MCX is up to continue to serve as one of the market price discovery place for India?
Very valid and apt question. So Amar, I think we've been in touch with industry of late, and we are trying to sort out the GST related issues along with the industry, which may be affecting the EGR. I mean, gold receipts as such. Tomorrow, we would like to have a spot, in silver as well. And I think some of the international benchmarks, need to be domestic is what the industry is telling us. Now, which direction that takes us, because there is silver which is mined in India and silver which is sold in India, and Vijay is also there, and so is Gautam by Choksi. So I think what I'm trying to say is that there should be a mechanism sooner or later wherein the spot gets discovered, not only in terms of a pole price, but also a traded window, a physical, mechanism every day. And then that could actually lead to a more of a completion of this cycle. That is one thing which I wanted to say, to leave. And of course, we are going to further, whatever we have done in our gold options contracts, we can definitely look at some positive changes coming in the silver as well, along the same lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivanshu. Very well summarized. Clearly, I think what he's saying, if I understand, financialization and making in a shape and form something available for investor and then promoting this, so that will drive further demand for silver. Maybe Vijay ji, next to you, is there anything which you think looks like elevated price is not the subject here, but any one thing which you think Hindustan Zinc, other than, of course, is doubling the expansion in the next few years?
Yeah, our CEO did mention, Mr. Mishaveri was vocal in terms of mentioning that focus of Hindustan Zinc remains to enhance its production, and whilst we believe we are the natural resource champion for the country, not just in zinc and lead, but also in terms of silver. Definitely silver is our pride, and we proudly mine it in India, and I'm sure there are enough and more reserves which we want to tap out and serve the Indian market, which will serve the longer term objective of the nation of import substitution and conserving foreign exchange. Whilst that's one part of it, but I think somewhere from a larger, geopolitical standpoint, and if I can use the phrase, getting over the colonial hangover, I've always been perplexed as to why do we keep talking about LGD, why do we keep talking about LBMA fix and all of those. And that's something which I've been debating with a few market players and ourselves internally within our team also our earnest urge to MCX would also be how can we look at an India fix or an India price, which is not just a polled price but also more a delivered price, like similar to what Shivanshu was saying, that like the LBMA fix, can we look at something in India which would demutualize ourselves from the international benchmarks, because we are 20% of the global market. If we are 20% of the global market in terms of consumption, shouldn't we get our rightful place under the sun in terms of a local price fixation which is actively traded, an extremely liquid contract which buyers, consumers, hedgers, everyone can use? Maybe that's something, if you ask me, would be of focus and interest for us. And apart from that, obviously making good the India good delivery, like Gautam Bhai's brand is LGD, ours is LGD, but I keep asking, why LGD? Why can't it be India good delivery as well, which is follow the BIS? And government in this form has been very focused. There has been QCO which has been imposed in most of the base metals. So whilst precious metal obviously is at 999 levels, so QCO something coming through assures the integrity of the entire supply chain in terms of quality of the finished product. So an India good delivery wholeheartedly accepted by all the Indian players. We want to sort of work on it, lead the way. I think that could be, these are probably, I would say, points of interest for us. And third, last but not the least, focus on purity. And whilst LBMA says 999 is okay, maybe with pride I can say that we are one of the few refiners in the world who punch 49 on our bars. There are very few people who put 49 on their bar, they just put 39, we put 49. So purity is something as a quality philosophy for us, that's a credo. So and that's something from a consumption point of view, purity of jewelry, as the other panel member was saying, with purity as low as 20-30%, it's not going to bode well for silver's future. It has to be a store of value, so purity has to be there. We have long discussed about hallmarking and other things, but I'm not sure where the industry is going in that. We are way up the value chain, but I think that's something which through IBJA or through the Indian jewelry side people, we would want to actively participate in that. So I think these are the 3-4 critical agenda I would see for us.
Very valuable. Maybe Choksi sir.
High prices.
I know there are many things can be done better, but two things maybe. What you think can be done from the refiner or in making something product which is industrial application?
From assistance from the authorities or regulators, one thing could be, we've been discussing this at various forums. There are gold leases that are available to jewelers, right? I think the authorities look at it with a very narrow lens of just keeping it for the jewelry industry, whereas sure there could be a very limited demand for industrial for gold, but certainly there's a large requirement for silver, working capital for silver, so I think it would help immensely to all the industrial players in the country to be able to avail of a silver loan from a domestic bank, right? And maybe the other one thing could be, again, coming back, well, Murthy ji wants to get away from local London, the ability for maybe Indian companies or refiners or industrial users to the ability to borrow in local London ounces, right? It's still quite complicated and convoluted. The rules are not clear. So I think these two would really help Indian industry, precious metal industry, not only silver, but probably gold as well, to be more efficient.
Clearly, Mehtaji, the jeweler is taken care, which means banks and is able to intermediate, but the industrial manufacturer or processors have been left out clearly. That's the message. Chirag, I know you will have a laundry list, just two, very quick, because we are running out of time.
So, if you see, any demand is in any asset class is always driven by a retail demand. You check when mutual funds came in, it wasn't that kind of a hype, but today when in such a huge volatility, we still see SIPs coming in, right? So that is that the holding of that price is coming from a retail demand. Now if you just go 2 steps back, how did that retail demand came in? So it was more of a awareness. So until unless so for a retail investor, there is nothing what is elevated or what is elevated, right? So until unless there is no awareness of a particular asset class, that why to buy silver, why to hold it and not to sell it until unless we don't have these three questions answered very crisp and nice with a right logic, we cannot create a demand at any price. It is just that gira to le liya, bada to bech diya. So that is a trader mindset, what actually India has. But at the same time, real growth, real demand comes from retail, and we see that retail coming in. At the same time, I'll just pop up a question in this whole crowd. If I ask, we are holding silver, our father, mother, everyone, you know, our ancestors were holding. How many of our next gen is holding gold or silver? They have got least bother what price is it. They are just bothered. Let's say if there is a new iPhone coming in, it is 15% higher, is okay. They're going to buy it, right? But there is no next gen awareness within for this market, which is a big point, because if there is awareness coming in today, we see the result down the line 5 years, 10 years. Yeah. So this will create a better demand in the market.
Thank you. So clearly awareness, product and marketing. I was in Bombay and I saw a beautiful hoarding by WGC and promoting ETF, which was quite eye-opening for me, and clearly retail investor is looking at financial asset, and the performance of gold and silver is really doing extremely well. What just making them aware about that this is an asset class could work as diversification of asset portfolio may work very well. Rokde sahab, I know you talked about same marketing, advertisement, awareness. What one thing more you think is the end user looking at to create the more demand for the product?
See, in India, our weakest point is that we are an overpopulated country. But I can say that this is our strongest point. As our world, maximum consumer are in India. We have near more than 142 crores. This is our strength. Our Pradhan Mantri always says that, "Aapada ko avsar mein badlo." I think this is the right time to आपदा को अवसर में बदलो. और मुझे लगता है कि यहाँ जितने भी ज्वेलर्स, मैंने बहुत जगह देखा है कि lot of jeweler are doing business in jewelry, but they are selling only the gold. They are not interested to keep their silver jewelry in their store also. So one change they have to make it. हमें हमारे ज्वेलरी स्टोर में we are jewelers only for not only for gold. We have to keep one counter for the silver also. This change we have to make. Another thing, lot of jewelers are SIP planning schemes. They are promoting jewelry for the gold only. They are not promoting any for the silver. Number 3, recycle of gold. Lot of consumer having a lot of small thing. They have a coins, they have a small murtis, they have a small piles, whatever they are near about kilos, 2 kilos. They are just dumped. We must try to bring them to our again to our jewelers and recycle it, and कोई ऐसी चीज बना के फिर से दीजिए तो इससे हमारी इंडस्ट्री में सर्कुलेशन बढ़ेगा. अगर ये कर लिया पूरे एक साल में, इसके लिए नो डाउट मार्केटिंग, नो डाउट इसके लिए फिर से सर्विसेज पे ध्यान देना पड़ेगा, हर कस्टमर को पिच करना पड़ेगा, बताना पड़ेगा, तो ऑटोमेटिकली 100% रिटेल अगर मजबूत होता जैसे कि चिराग जी ने कहा है तो ऑटोमेटिक डिमांड आ जाएगी.
Thank you. Mehta ji, I know you have too many things to do, but one thing I know you talked about silver, like you have word for gold, something like silver. Anything else comes in your mind?
See, you started this topic with, price. I don't think price really matters. If price would have really mattered, then gold would not have sold. We would not have imported 815 tons of gold in last year with such high price. So when you give a store of value, then price does not matter. If I give you 100 rupee note, you give me 100 rupees ka change, there is no problem. Yeah. The problem here is that we don't give pure silver, especially in jewelry. So in my opinion, we should ask government to implement self-hallmarking mechanism. So there is no hallmarking agency required. Every dealer can self-hallmark. That is one thing. And secondly, financialization of silver. Like we are planning electronic gold receipt, we can also plan electronic silver receipt. These two things.
Thank you so much. Ian, from India perspective, clearly, again, learning from the recent supply chain disruption, learning from all the changes in the cost, anything, one particular thing, how are you looking at India as a marketplace?
Well, I would say just looking in terms of the potential for silver demand in the next few years, I would just make 2 points. I would say one, at the moment the markets are extremely volatile, all of the markets. But silver has a kind of unique, it has a dual role in the fact that it's a precious metal and it's an industrial metal. So whereas we see a lot of spikes in the gold price as a safe haven, and we see a lot of dips in the copper price as fears of industrial growth, silver, sometimes the market can work where those two factors can anchor silver somewhere in the middle, so the volatility may be a little less. So we might see that it's one of the least volatile of the metals because of the fact that it's kind of playing two roles. And the second point, I guess, would be if we look back at the last few years, the last 5 years, for example, the silver price pre-COVID was $15, but soon after it was in the low 20s, and over the last 5 years has fairly steadily risen $10 to the low 30s. I think Chirag made that point earlier in his previous address. But in that time, from the bullion side, India imports have been sort of 4,000 to 5,000 tons of bullion, I think, per year consistently in that period. I think one of the years was about 7,000 or 8,000 tons, I think 2023. So in fact, the price has been rising steadily over the last 5 years, but the demand has still been there and still been there consistently. So in real terms, you could argue that demand has gone up. So I don't see any particular reason for that to end. So that's more from an outsider's point of view. But
thank you, Ian. I think, Neville, you are the last, but clearly anything I would say, experience in the last 6 months and market structure changing, of anything, 1, 2 thing which you think you would be like to do or?
Yeah, so I think many people kind of spoke about that. I do feel that we need to position silver as an investment asset. Maybe gold and silver can be positioned as precious metal investments, right, rather than just leaving silver out. So I think that's one. The second I feel is if you see that the real growth that we saw in the jewelry segment for gold was since 2005-06 when GML started, right? I think even this industry would need something like a silver metal loan, right? And I think
already
Gautam
Choksi
spoke,
said.
yeah. So I think that is an important, because it allows you to warehouse metal without getting exposed to the volatility, right? So you have M2Ms that you have, but it's still not that you're pricing the metal. The third is, I think if you want to keep demand sustained, there needs the entities to warehouse. And to warehouse, you need to hedge, right? Therefore, I think there are opportunities if the market goes into a 20 cent, 25, 30, 40 cent discount. But the players are not warehousing that time, right? The reason they don't do it is A, they don't have, they're not hedging themselves. So they can look to hedge yourself on, MCX, IBX, even banks are now there in Gift City. So I think entities need to look to warehouse and hedge that silver. So it'll even help them in their business and kind of smoothen demand in spite of higher prices. Yeah.
Thank you, Neville. So clearly the volatility in demand, which is quite critical and need to create a little bit solid base as you have, let's say, mutual fund or ETF who are sustained demand. Maybe, I think, thank you all for sharing your views, but is there, we welcome question if you all have, we have 5, 6, 7 more minutes to go. I know we have opened this question. Please join on this, through this Slido, and you can post your question. I'm sure you all have some question for all these panelists here. So I'm more than happy to take any question.
Yeah, so all you need to do is scan that QR code and you can post your questions directly. They will appear on the screen. There are cordless mics on standby in the house, and In case you want to ask direct questions, just put your hand up in the air, we'll send a mic across to you. आप कोई भी सवाल पूछना चाहें, हाथ उठा लीजिए, अपना परिचय दीजिए और फिर सवाल पूछिए, माइक आप तक पहुंच जाएगा.
Namaste and thank you panelists for this great insights. I'm Stephen Fernandez from Jewel Buzz. My question is to Surendra Bhai and maybe to others. Why this exercise is not bearing results, as Surendra Bhai said, of membership to something like a World Silver Council? Why isn't this body being formed? What are the roadblocks, obstacles?
This is very interesting. As I said, the industry needs to come together. We are not serious. The issue is there is a lot of gap between refiners, silver manufacturers, industrial user, jewelry manufacturer. There are a lot of gaps, and probably none of them wants to sit together and resolve the issue. The issue is not a membership. The issue is we are missing the bus of silver. See, the gold prices went so much high. We could have done a lot that silver consumption would have increased. But we are not taking a uniform decision as to how we want to grow, what kind of growth we are looking for the industry. And I always say, if we this silver industry, especially in case of jewelry, silver jewelry, it will take a few more years before it collapses like a diamond industry. The diamond industry collapsed because of mixing of CVD diamonds and other diamonds, and this industry will collapse because let's say that silver prices goes to say 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs rupees. Somebody takes out silver from his house, jewelry, and want to sell. He won't even get 10% or 15% or 20% of the money. What will happen? So people will lose confidence in silver. We need to bring that confidence to the customer, and for this, everybody needs to come together. What is stopping us? Probably हम लोग सब marketing करना चाहते हैं, हम लोग consumer के प्रति conscious नहीं है. कंज्यूमर आज चीट हो रहा है. जब तक हम ये नहीं समझेंगे कि कंज्यूमर के साथ चीटिंग हो रही है, कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं चल सकता. थैंक यू.
I think one thing just to add, silver is still looked upon by the world as industrial metal. So it's, I would say, hybrid. So clearly, I think India has 20%, 30% or 40% depending on the price. I would say India is extremely price sensitive. Maybe looking at something which is an India in body and working through some of those challenges which these esteemed panelists talked about, I think will make some impact. And clearly the kind of energy transition taking place in India, especially renewable, I think the demand is going to be there. So the next question, which is very interesting, I think silver price will come to that. But I would say, like already Chirag bhai put forward extremely valuable insight on demand supply. Please have a look. Do collect his piece of very smart research. But maybe again, I think G and J, industry not pushing hallmarking for silver, it is not wrong. I'm not sure whether Mehta ji is back to you or Mr. Rokde, Rajesh ji aapko.
Yeah, I can explain this. मेहता जी ने जैसे कि दुख जाहिर किया है कि कहीं ना कहीं परसेंटेज जो सिल्वर के प्योरिटी को लेके है वो उनका दुख सभी ने समझा है. बट एज अ इंडस्ट्री हेड वी ऑलवेज वेलकम हॉलमार्किंग बिकॉज ओनली एंड ओनली ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री ऐसी इंडस्ट्री है जहाँ सबसे ज़्यादा ट्रांसपेरेंसी है. हम लोग वजन दिखा के देते हैं, पेपर में रेट आता है, मेकिंग अलग से बताते हैं, जीएसटी अलग से बताते हैं. बस कहीं ना कहीं लैकिंग जो है वो कहीं ना कहीं बिल पे जो सेल्फ, अभी थोड़ी देर हम लोग आपस में बात कर रहे थे, सेल्फ हॉलमार्किंग अगर ये आ जाता है, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट के पास अभी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रेडी नहीं है. अभी जो हॉलमार्किंग करने के लिए जितने सेंटर्स चाहिए गवर्नमेंट के पास, ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड के पास, वो केवल 212 है पूरी इंडिया में. आप सोचिए कि गोल्ड में 2000 से ज़्यादा है और सिल्वर में केवल 212. अब गोल्ड के अनुपात में अगर मैं सिल्वर की इंडस्ट्री देखता हूं तो उससे 8 टाइम बिग है. तो एट अ टाइम अगर ये मैंडेटरी अगर आ जाता है तो गवर्नमेंट के पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं होने के कारण ये कियोस हो सकता है। तो इसके लिए बेस्ट ऑप्शन है सेल्फ हॉलमार्किंग। एज अ इंडस्ट्री हेड, इंडस्ट्री इज ऑलवेज वेलकमिंग हॉलमार्किंग। वी नेवर से दैट हॉलमार्क इज हार्मफुल फॉर अस। और मुझे लगता है इससे कस्टमर का विश्वास बढ़ेगा, हम प्रोमोट करते हैं। और अभी भी बहुत सारे ऐसे ज्वेलर्स हैं जो अभी से ही उन्होंने हॉलमार्किंग स्टार्ट कर दिया। हॉलमार्किंग ज्वेलरी बेस्ड है। इवन मेरे एक दोस्त यहाँ बैठे हैं पंकज बखाई जी, वो नागपुर से, छोटी सिटी से। कई सालों से मैं देखता हूँ कि सिल्वर हॉलमार्किंग वो खुद रखते हैं, उनसे प्रेरणा लेके काफ़ी लोगों ने रखा है। देखिए मैं स्पष्ट कहता हूँ कि जो भी परिस्थिति है उसके जिम्मेदार हम स्वयं हैं। अगर हम अपने आप को बदल लेंगे तो प्रॉब्लम शॉर्ट आउट हो जाएगा। कहीं ना कहीं शुरू करना पड़ेगा। ऑलवेज कोई और करेगा ये देखने से अच्छा हमको अपने आप को, आज इंडस्ट्री के सभी लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, क्यों ना आज स्टार्ट कर दे कि मैं सिर्फ हॉलमार्किंग ही बेचूं। इज अवेलेबल है। सो इंडस्ट्री हेड इज रेडी। और मुझे लगता है सभी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, फिर वो IBJA हो, GJC हो या और भी कोई संस्थाएं हो, दे ऑल आर ऑन वन प्लेटफॉर्म। दे ऑलवेज से दैट वी आर रेडी। जस्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की कमी, दैट इज द इशू। और देन ऑल्सो एक बिल पे भी सेल्फ हॉलमार्किंग की बात चल रही थी। अगर बिल पे प्योरिटी लिख के दे दिया जाए तो मुझे लगता है 90% प्रॉब्लम वहीं सॉर्ट आउट हो जाता है। हमें हमारे कस्टमर का कॉन्फिडेंस जितना, ये सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है।
Thank you so much. I think silver question, I think yes, tomorrow will be answered by many panelists. And however fundamental and clearly the deficit is likely to be. Just to summarize in 1 minute, and I'll like to thank all of you and close the session. But clearly, I think when I hear from Ian, from Neville, and more important, Chirag, who is very close to the supply chain, two things are emerging. One, of course, the cost of doing business is going up. And I don't think it is going to come back very quickly, because the world is going to be very, very different in the next few years. Things may normalize, but it is Trump. He himself, in my view, doesn't know what he's going to do tomorrow. So till now, gold, silver, and most of the asset class are out of tariff, but you never know. So I think we all need to be watchful. Second, I think with respect to silver, India remain a dominant, and with the growth in the renewable, I met a couple of large renewable players. The demand is going to be exponential. I think your contribution will help, but still continue to import means the supply chain of international will continue to be a key, I would say, focal point for the whole supply. If I hear from all of you, we need to create financialization, bring more investor. As of today, if I look at myself, like gold suraksha ke liye hai, silver is still being used as utensil or jewelry. I don't think people really look at this as an investment product. So that need to be made more aware. So with this, I would like to thank each one of you for really putting your all thoughts together and sharing with the audience. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amar Singh, sir, and every other gentleman on the stage. A big thank you to Mr. Shivanshu Mehta for his presence through this such a long panel.